being cheated on.
Hmm.
It's one of those things that really just hits you right where it hurts. I mean, you might have gone through it yourself, or maybe it's like a lurking fear in the back of your mind. But either way, it's heavy stuff.
Hmm.
And that's why we're diving deep today.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
going to tackle all of it.
Head first.
Yeah, head first. The emotional chaos. What happens right after you find out, the long road to healing, and how to piece things back together, whether it's yourself or maybe even the relationship. I mean, we all want to go beyond those like surface level platitudes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get right to it. Like, what's the real deal here?
Well, when that infidelity bomb drops, it can feel like your whole world is falling apart.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's not just emotional either.
Hmm.
The sources you gave me, they actually describe physical reactions too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like your heart starts racing, you feel totally disoriented. Some even say they felt sick to their stomach.
Wow.
It's basically your body going into like full-on threat mode because you're betrayed
Yeah.
on a really deep level.
It's that primal.
It is. And one thing that really jumped out at me from your sources was how differently people react in those first few moments.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I saw that too.
Some people just explode.
Right.
Pure anger, demanding answers right then and there. But then others, it's like they shut down completely.
Like a total freeze response.
Exactly. Emotional paralysis. It's like a defense mechanism to cope with that overwhelming pain.
Makes sense. I mean, how else are you supposed to handle something that intense?
Right. And what's so important, and several of your sources stress this, is that there's no one right way to react.
It's not a textbook thing.
Not at all. Rage, devastation, confusion, numbness, whatever you feel is valid.
It's your truth in that moment.
Exactly. Because there's no set playbook for this kind of experience.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's really important to highlight what a lot of the sources were saying about pausing
Mm.
before you do anything drastic, especially in those first hours and days.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
Because when emotions are that raw,
You can make decisions you'll totally regret later.
exactly,
Yeah. Your sources talk about simple stuff to help you stay grounded, like just taking some deep, slow breaths.
to calm the storm a little.
Exactly. It helps regulate your nervous system. And even more important, I think, is reaching out to someone you trust. Could be a close friend, family.
Someone in your corner?
Yeah, someone who will just be there, no judgment. Someone to help you through that initial crisis.
That makes total sense. So we've talked about that first wave, the shock, the reactions.
Yeah.
But then as things start to, I don't know, settle a bit,
Yeah.
you start to crave answers. Like you need to make sense of it all.
Absolutely. One source called it the search for meaning phase.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
The why starts to eat at you. And you even start to question yourself. Like maybe you did something wrong. Maybe it was your fault somehow.
Oh, that's so common. And it's understandable. You're grappling with something that just doesn't make sense. And of course, you start bombarding your partner with questions.
Right, like what happened? Why did you do this? Where do we go from here?
Exactly. But here's where it gets tricky, and one of your sources pointed this out really well. You might not get those clear-cut answers you're looking for.
It's not always that straightforward, huh?
Nope. Infidelity can be really messy.
Complicated reasons.
Exactly. Sometimes the person who cheated doesn't even fully understand their own motivations.
It's that deep-seated, huh?
It can be. And it's during the search for answers that self-blame can really take root.
Yeah. Like you start to pick yourself apart.
Right. And I can't emphasize this enough. And a lot of your sources were adamant about this. Your partner's choice to cheat, it is not a reflection on you.
It's not your failing.
No. It doesn't mean you weren't good enough or that you weren't lovable enough.
It's about them.
It is. Their actions are their own, coming from their own choices and their own issues, not some kind of judgment on you.
It's so easy to get caught up in that spiral of thinking, though.
Right.
To replay every conversation, every moment, trying to find where you went wrong.
I know, it's tempting. But like your sources say, infidelity is ultimately about the choices made by the person who broke the trust.
The one who crossed those lines. So for those who are facing that really tough decision, whether to try and work things out or move on, your sources had some interesting perspectives.
Yeah.
They suggested trying to take a step back.
Which I know sounds impossible when you're hurting so much.
Yeah, I mean, how are you supposed to be objective in that kind of situation?
I know, it's tough. But your sources emphasize the importance of really assessing the situation. Like, is your partner truly remorseful? And one source specifically mentioned taking full responsibility, without getting defensive.
Owning up to it.
Yes. And are they willing to put in the hard work to rebuild that trust?
Because that's huge.
It is. Or, on the flip side, has there been a pattern of dishonesty? Have they been dismissive of your feelings in the past?
Like, is this part of a bigger picture?
Right. Those are the kinds of things to consider.
And one of the things that came up a lot in the materials was the value of professional help.
Oh, therapy can be so helpful.
Yeah, like to get an outside perspective, to have that safe space to work through all the complicated emotions.
Definitely. Because it's a huge decision to make, staying or leaving.
Life-changing, really.
It is. And a therapist can equip you with the tools you need.
So, no matter what path you choose, staying or going, one thing that came up in all of your sources, healing.
Yeah.
Like, that's not optional.
Not at all.
You can't just skip over that part.
And your sources broke down the healing process into a few key parts.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, you got to let yourself feel it all.
Like lean into the pain.
Yeah. The grief, the anger, the sadness, all of it. Because trying to bury those feelings...
No, I come back to bite you.
Exactly. They said it can actually prevent you from healing. So finding healthy ways to process those emotions, journaling, art, therapy, even just letting yourself cry.
Those are all good outlets.
They are. And then there's setting boundaries, which, as one source pointed out, look different depending on what you decide about the relationship.
Right, so different boundaries depending on if you're staying or leaving.
Yeah. If you stay and try to rebuild, you have to figure out new ground rules. What feels safe, what shows respect.
It's like redrawing the lines.
Exactly. But if you decide to leave, then the boundaries probably involve creating some distance.
And limiting contact to protect yourself.
Right. And self-care, that becomes super important too.
Ah, yes. Treating yourself right.
Yeah. Your sources really emphasize doing things that nourish you. Body, mind, and soul.
Whatever fills your cup.
Exactly. So exercise, mindfulness, spending time with people who lift you up, hobbies, anything that brings you joy.
Like rediscovering what makes you you.
Yes, it's all about putting yourself first again.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, forgiveness.
Yeah.
That came up too, right? And that can be such a loaded word.
It is. But one source did a great job of explaining it. They said that forgiveness doesn't mean you're saying what happened was okay.
It's not condoning it.
Not at all. It's more about letting go of the resentment.
For your own sake.
Exactly. It's a way to find peace. It's a process, though. And it doesn't always mean reconciliation.
It's personal.
Very. And it happens on its own timeline.
No pressure.
No. And the last thing your sources talked about in terms of healing is reconnecting with yourself.
Like finding your own identity again.
Yes. That sense of self-worth that exists outside of the relationship.
Separate from what happened.
Exactly. So revisiting passions you might have put on hold, discovering new interests, setting goals, doing things that remind you of your strengths.
I love that.
It's about reclaiming who you are deep down and rebuilding that self-esteem that might have taken a hit.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the initial shock, the struggle for answers, and that crucial healing process. And your sources seem to agree that moving forward with strength, it is possible.
It is. They really emphasize resilience. That even though infidelity hurts like hell, it doesn't have to define you.
It's a check.
Yeah, not the whole story. And many people who've been through it come out the other side with even deeper self-awareness. They know themselves better, they know what they value, they know what they truly want, both in relationships and in life.
And whether that path forward means trying to rebuild the relationship.
See you
which,
soon for the next
as some
part.
sources acknowledged, is possible, but takes serious effort from both sides. Or if it means creating a new life for yourself. It all comes down to putting yourself first.
And moving forward with clarity and strength.
Yes, exactly. I also noticed that some of your sources invited people who've been through infidelity to share their stories, like their healing journey, what helped them, what they learned.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It is, because sharing your experience can be so helpful, both for you and for others who might feel alone in their pain.
Yeah, knowing you're not alone makes a huge difference.
Huge. And it can give people hope or even practical advice.
For sure. It's like proof that healing is possible.
And it reminds us that even when we're hurting, we can still help others. It's amazing.
It is.
Wow, this has been a lot.
Yeah.
Really important, though.
Definitely.
It's such a sensitive topic, and one that people often go through alone. So thank you for diving into this with us and for sharing all of your sources.
Yeah.
And as your sources made so clear, please remember that your worth, that never changes.
Right. It's not tied to someone else's actions.
It's inherent. You're valuable just because you are.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day, here's something to think about, based on all we've talked about. Can this experience, as painful as it is, help you discover your own inner strength? help you figure out what truly matters to you, not just in relationships, but in every part of your life. It's a journey, for sure.
Hmm.
But you're stronger than you think.